On a quiet street, a person is sweeping near the curb while another stands nearby on his phone. A black SUV begins reversing down the road towards them. The driver, clearly not looking, continues to reverse at a steady pace. The SUV strikes the sweeper, knocking them to the ground and running them over with its rear wheel before stopping. This incident is a tragic outcome of distracted driving and a lack of situational awareness. Drivers, especially when reversing, must always check their surroundings. Pedestrians, in turn, must remain vigilant, as relying on drivers to always see you is a dangerous assumption. At a construction site, an excavator operator uses the machine's bucket to lift a heavy metal ladder. A ground worker stands directly in the path of the operation, attempting to guide the load with his hands. As the operator lifts the ladder, it becomes unstable, slips from the bucket's grip, and pivots downward, striking the ground worker. This is a clear case of improper lifting procedure. An excavator bucket is not designed for lifting such objects. Proper slings and rigging should have been used. Furthermore, the ground worker should never have placed himself in the line of fire where the load could fall. In this highly automated aluminum casting facility, a worker in a red hard hat is using a hoist near an active industrial robot. Crucially, the worker is freely moving within the robot's maximum reach. There are no physical safety cages or light curtains separating the man from the machine. He is sharing the robot's workspace, relying only on his own awareness. The worker places a stack of ingots and turns his back to the robot, walking directly into its programmed path. The robot swings a heavy, loaded basket, colliding with the worker with brutal force and throwing him across the floor. The robot, oblivious, completes its cycle as the man lies motionless. This is a catastrophic failure of robotic safety integration. A robot's work envelope is an absolute no-go zone for unprotected personnel. This area must be protected by physical fences with interlocked gates or presence-sensing devices, like light curtains that trigger an immediate shutdown if crossed. Assuming a worker can safely work around an industrial robot is a fatal mistake. This incident was an inevitability caused by a fundamentally flawed system design that failed to separate human and machine workspaces. In a stamping plant, workers operate a large industrial press. One man reaches deep inside the press to adjust material. At that moment, the press cycles, trapping his arm. He cries out, and his colleagues react instantly, rushing to hit the emergency stop and attempting to reverse the machine. While the co-worker's quick reaction is commendable, the incident should never have happened. Reaching into the point of operation of an active press is extremely dangerous. Safety systems like light curtains, two-hand controls, and physical guards are designed specifically to make this impossible, indicating a severe breakdown in safety protocols. In a container port, a large reach stacker is lifting a container from a trailer. The machine becomes critically unbalanced, causing it to slowly but unstoppably tip over and crash onto its side. This demonstrates a critical loss of stability. Reach stacker operators must adhere to strict load charts, accounting for weight, boom extension, and angle. The ground must also be firm and level for all heavy lifts. Exceeding the machine's capacity or operating on an unstable surface is a direct cause of such catastrophic tip-over incidents.
A three-wheeled taxi parks beside an open manhole. As a passenger exits with her dog, she falls directly into the uncovered sewer, while her dog safely jumps aside. This incident underscores a critical lesson. Always be aware of ground-level hazards. Open manholes must be clearly marked and barricaded to prevent such tragic falls.
A woman on a dirt road is struck from behind by a large road grader. The operator's visibility was completely obstructed by the machine's blind spots. This tragic event shows why spotters are mandatory for heavy equipment, and pedestrians must never assume they have been seen. A worker makes a fatal error by leaning into an active industrial milling machine. It suddenly cycles, the heavy head descending and crushing him against the workpiece. This tragic event demonstrates the critical need for lockout-tagout procedures. Power must be completely cut and locked before any maintenance is performed to prevent accidental activation. A man looks under the hood of his car, parked facing a wall. The vehicle, seemingly left unsecured or suffering a mechanical failure, suddenly rolls forward, pinning him against the building. This highlights a crucial safety rule. When working on a vehicle, always ensure the parking brake is set, the transmission is in park, and wheels are chocked to prevent any unintended movement. Inside a factory, operations seem normal until a violent explosion rips through the area, creating a massive fireball. This type of event often stems from the ignition of combustible dust or gas. Strict air quality monitoring and dust control systems are essential to prevent such catastrophic incidents. A worker in a steel warehouse stands on a stack of beams to guide an overhead crane. The crane begins to lift a long I-beam, but the load is improperly secured and wildly imbalanced. As it rises, it swings uncontrollably, striking the worker with immense force and pinning him. This is a fatal mistake in rigging. Loads must be perfectly balanced and secured, and all personnel must remain outside the line of fire, the area within the potential swing radius of any suspended load. A man on a flatbed truck directs a forklift operator lifting a tall, unstable stack of heavy tires. As the operator attempts to place the load, it loses its balance and topples over, crushing the man who had no time to react. Forklift loads should always be kept as low to the ground and as stable as possible. Stacking items this high creates an unacceptable risk of tipping. At an outdoor repair site, an individual works underneath the raised bed of a dump truck, which is supported only by its hydraulic system. Suddenly, the hydraulic pressure is lost, and the structure gives way, lowering rapidly. Never work under a load supported solely by hydraulic or pneumatic pressure. Always use certified mechanical supports or locking bars to secure the equipment physically. 2 sanitation employees work at the rear of their stationary vehicle. A small truck in the adjacent lane begins to reverse without a clear view of the area directly behind it. The reversing vehicle makes contact with one of the workers. This emphasizes the need for high visibility vests and the importance for all drivers to be aware of their blind spots, especially in areas with pedestrians. In a narrow industrial driveway, a worker stands directly in the blind spot behind a large truck. As the truck starts reversing, the movement leads to a loss of balance for the person behind it. This is a near miss that reinforces a key safety principle. Always make positive visual contact with an equipment operator before entering their path of travel. At a shipping container terminal, a pedestrian walks across the active yard. Simultaneously, the operator of a large forklift begins to execute a turn. The vehicle's path intersects with the pedestrian, leading to an unexpected event. Using designated pedestrian walkways and being aware of the large blind spots around heavy machinery are crucial for safety in such environments. Inside a large industrial facility, a worker attempts to clear a material jam from a powerful roller machine while it is still operating. The moving material suddenly pulls the worker toward the rollers, creating a severe entanglement situation. This lengthy incident is a stark reminder that machinery must be completely stopped and de-energized using lockout-tagout procedures before any attempt is made to clear a jam or perform maintenance. A truck loaded with loose, heavy produce is parked on a narrow, sloped street. the structural integrity of the truck's side gate fails, causing the entire load to suddenly spill out and roll down the alley where people are walking. Regular vehicle maintenance and pre-trip inspections to confirm that all doors, gates, and latches are secure are essential for preventing cargo spills. In a metal foundry, workers are managing material in a large industrial vessel. An uncontrolled element is introduced, triggering a sudden and powerful thermal reaction. A large volume of superheated material is ejected from the container. Working with molten materials requires strict process control and specialized personal protective equipment to mitigate the risks of such unexpected events. In an outdoor storage yard, a forklift repositions large, vertically stored slabs. A worker on foot adjusts materials in the immediate vicinity. As the machine operates, one of the heavy slabs becomes unstable and unexpectedly shifts. This moment underscores the importance of maintaining a safe perimeter around moving loads and ensuring materials are properly secured before and during transport. This aerial view shows a waste collection truck during a routine emptying procedure with a large dumpster. As the automated lifting arm moves the container, an individual is positioned in the narrow space between the container and the truck. The movement leads to an extremely hazardous situation. It is a critical reminder that a clear zone must be established and verified around all heavy machinery before any operation begins. Within a modern factory, an automated robotic system performs its programmed tasks inside a safety enclosure. A worker enters the active work area while the machine is still in its operational cycle. An unexpected situation occurs as the worker's position conflicts with the robot's movement path. Safety protocols, such as lockout, tag-out procedures, are designed to prevent such events by ensuring machinery is fully de-energized before human entry. In this storage facility, workers are positioned at the base of a very tall stack of heavy sacks. Without warning, the stacked goods become unstable, and the entire structure gives way. This incident highlights the inherent risks of improper stacking. Following guidelines for stack height, weight distribution, and interlocking patterns is fundamental to maintaining a safe warehouse environment. Inside a wood processing plant, a forklift transports a tall stack of unsecured panels. As the vehicle navigates a turn, the load center of gravity shifts, causing it to become severely unbalanced. The entire stack of material is displaced onto the factory floor near another workstation. Securing loads with strapping or wrapping, especially when they are tall, is a vital step in preventing material handling incidents. On an automotive factory floor, workers perform tasks near a robotic assembly line. One technician steps inside the designated safety perimeter to make an adjustment while the system is active. The large robotic arm continues its sequence, moving a vehicle frame into the space now occupied by the worker. This scenario demonstrates the critical function of safety interlocks and the rule to never enter a robot's work envelope during operation. A worker is performing maintenance on a large industrial press. While they are positioned directly in the machine's path of operation, an unexpected mechanical issue occurs. The heavy upper component of the press begins to move downward. This is a powerful illustration of why lockout-tagout procedures are essential. All potential energy sources must be completely isolated and verified before any service work begins. In a warehouse, several workers are taking a break on the floor. Nearby, a forklift operator uses straps to lift a heavy, stacked pallet. As the load is raised, it begins to swing unpredictably, and its movement leads to a loss of control. Establishing designated safe zones for breaks away from moving equipment and ensuring proper rigging techniques are used can prevent such. In a busy workshop, a worker is bent over, focused on a task near a large piece of industrial machinery. Several colleagues are nearby, but no one is supervising the immediate area. Without warning, a massive, vertically positioned component of the machine, likely a heavy press or mold, detaches from its housing. It pivots downward with immense force, crushing the unsuspecting worker underneath its weight. Colleagues rush over in a panic, but the damage is already done. This catastrophic failure points to a severe lack of mechanical integrity and inadequate safety checks. Regular, thorough inspections of all machine parts, especially those under load, are non-negotiable. Furthermore, implementing lockout-tagout procedures during work in close proximity to such equipment is essential to prevent unexpected activation or mechanical failure. Inside a textile factory, several workers move between rows of massive industrial looms. The area is a complex web of rapidly moving threads and rotating components. One worker carries a long metal rod across the aisle. As he walks, the end of the rod he's carrying gets snagged by the machinery. Instead of letting go, he tries to pull it free. The machine's power is overwhelming, and it instantly pulls him off his feet, dragging him violently into the rotating mechanism. His body is pulled completely into the machine as his colleagues look on in horror, helpless to stop the equipment. This incident is a stark reminder of the dangers of loose items and improper material handling around rotating machinery. The key safety lesson is to maintain situational awareness and never fight a machine's power. If something gets caught, the immediate reaction should be to let go and hit the nearest emergency stop. Proper machine guarding should also be in place to prevent contact with moving parts. Two workers are positioned near a large industrial rolling press. One worker, in a blue sweater, leans over the machine's in-feed area, seemingly trying to adjust or clear something while it's operational. While he is leaning far into the machine, the powerful rollers suddenly activate its speed. He is instantly caught and dragged headfirst into the mechanism, disappearing completely between the massive cylinders in a fraction of a second. This is a devastating example of why lockout-tagout procedures are critical. Before any maintenance or adjustment, the machine must be completely de-energized and the power source locked out. Reaching into an active machine is a fatal gamble. Inside a mattress factory, a worker positions foam on a compression machine. Without warning, the massive upper press assembly detaches and crashes down, striking the worker. This indicates a catastrophic mechanical failure, likely due to improper maintenance, metal fatigue, or failed safety systems. Critical equipment like presses requires rigorous, scheduled inspections and preventive maintenance to identify and repair worn components before they can fail. Looking down into a large industrial shaft, several workers stand on a makeshift wooden platform. Suddenly, the planks give way, and the entire platform disintegrates, causing the workers to plummet into the darkness below. This tragedy was caused by improperly constructed scaffolding. Temporary work platforms at height must be engineered to bear the required load, properly secured, and inspected for stability before any work begins. A highway maintenance worker stands between two DOT trucks parked on the shoulder. In a shocking instant, a speeding semi-truck plows directly into the rear DOT truck. The buffer vehicle is completely destroyed, but it absorbs the deadly impact. This vividly illustrates the critical importance of truck-mounted attenuators in protecting roadside work zones from inattentive drivers. A man walks through a factory aisle, pouring a flammable liquid on the floor. The liquid instantly ignites, creating a wall of fire that travels down the aisle. The arsonist, now trapped, panics and tries to beat out the flames. This is a deliberate criminal act that endangers everyone. Workplaces must have strict controls over flammable materials, as well as robust fire suppression systems to handle such events, whether accidental or intentional. In an auto shop, two mechanics work on a massive truck tire. Without warning, the tire explodes with incredible force, throwing one of the men violently across the garage. This is likely a zipper failure explosion. Overinflating a tire or failing to inspect it for damage can cause a catastrophic rupture. Using a safety cage during inflation is a mandatory safety measure. A worker attempts to clear a jam on a large machine with an exposed, spinning flywheel while it is still running. His clothing gets caught, and he is violently pulled into the mechanism. His horrified co-workers rush to shut off the power and desperately try to free him from the still-moving parts. This devastating accident is a graphic demonstration of why machine guards must always be in place, and why lockout or tagout procedures are non-negotiable. No maintenance should ever be performed on live equipment. In a busy shipping yard, a forklift operator carrying a large crate turns too sharply. The forks swing out and collide with the cabin of a parked three-wheeled vehicle, striking the driver inside. This emphasizes the need for clear traffic management and heightened situational awareness in areas with heavy machinery. On a construction site, a worker bends over, unaware of a nearby skid steer. The operator loses control of the pallet on the forks, which falls and strikes the worker. This shows why exclusion zones are critical. Never work beneath a suspended load. A man lies on a dump truck's chassis directly beneath the raised bed to perform maintenance. The hydraulic system fails, and the multi-ton bed slams down, crushing him instantly. This is a fatal oversight. Never work under a raised load without first securing it with certified safety props designed to prevent collapse. A man prepares to lower the heavy steel ramps on a flatbed trailer. He stands directly in the path of the second ramp as he unlatches it. He is unable to control its immense weight as it swings down, striking him with brutal force and pinning him to the ground. This equipment is far too heavy to be managed by one person without mechanical aids or a proper, safe procedure. He should have stood to the side, not in the direct path of the ramp's descent, and used a system to control its lowering speed. At a refuse site, a small girl runs up to a large, half-full commercial dumpster and playfully hangs from its edge. Her small weight is just enough to upset the container's delicate balance. The heavy dumpster begins to slowly tip over, gathering unstoppable momentum before it crashes to the ground, trapping the child underneath. Other bystanders don't seem to notice the immediate danger. This is a heartbreaking tragedy that underscores a vital lesson. Industrial work sites and heavy equipment are not playgrounds. Heavy containers, even when they seem stable, can pose a significant tipping hazard. Constant supervision and restricted access are paramount to preventing children from entering these dangerous areas. In a large fabrication hangar, several workers are gathered around a massive, partially constructed metal hull section. High above, an overhead crane is maneuvering another heavy, curved steel plate. Suddenly, the rigging fails. The multi-ton steel plate detaches from the crane and plummets directly onto the structure below, striking the workers who have no time to react. This incident highlights a catastrophic failure in overhead lifting safety. It's crucial that all rigging is properly inspected and rated for the load. Most importantly, a designated exclusion zone must be strictly enforced directly below any suspended load. At a sorting facility, a worker stands at the base of a steep conveyor belt. His clothing gets snagged by the moving belt, and he's instantly pulled off his feet and carried upwards, unable to break free. This demonstrates the risk of entanglement. Loose clothing is extremely hazardous near conveyors, which must have accessible emergency stop cords along their full length. Two men are feeding large sheets into a green industrial machine, while one worker is positioned at the entrance to adjust the material. the machine's heavy upper assembly suddenly collapses, crushing him against the lower section. This catastrophic mechanical failure highlights the need for rigorous maintenance schedules. Hydraulic systems and structural supports on heavy equipment must be inspected routinely by qualified personnel to prevent such a sudden, fatal collapse. Inside an industrial laundry plant, a worker in a blue uniform is working between two large, rotating machines. He appears to get his arm caught in one of the machines, which then violently pulls him in and spins his entire body around its axis multiple times with incredible speed. Rotating shafts and rollers are unforgiving. This incident shows a complete failure of machine guarding. All nip points and moving parts must be fully enclosed to make human contact impossible. A worker in a workshop is operating a machine that winds material onto a large, spinning roll. He stands very close to the rotating mechanism while it is in operation. His arm becomes entangled in the material being wound onto the roll. In an instant, the machine's torque pulls him in. Wrapping his entire body around the spool at high speed, he is spun around violently before the machine comes to a stop. This is a tragic illustration of the dangers of unguarded, rotating equipment. The primary safety failure is the lack of guarding to prevent access to the point of operation. Operators must never wear loose clothing and should use tools to manipulate materials, rather than hands, to prevent entanglement. In a foundry, workers are near a large, open pit filled with cooling liquid. An overhead crane with an electromagnet is moving large metal billets. As the crane moves a massive metal block over the workers, the electromagnet unexpectedly deactivates. The huge block plummets down, striking one worker and knocking him directly into the pit, where he disappears beneath the surface. This incident reveals multiple severe safety violations. First, the rule of never standing under a suspended load was broken. An exclusion zone is mandatory for all overhead lifts. Second, using an electromagnet to move material over personnel is exceptionally dangerous, as a power failure can lead to an instant release of the load. Finally, open pits must be clearly marked and guarded with railings to prevent falls. A worker in a warehouse is using a manual pallet jack to move a massive, vertically stored roll of paper. As he pulls the jack, the immense roll becomes unstable, tips over, and falls directly on top of him, completely crushing him against the floor. Storing heavy, cylindrical objects vertically without proper chocks or racking is extremely unsafe. This incident was caused by improper storage. Such items must be stored horizontally in approved racks, or, if vertical, securely braced to prevent tipping. A worker is near a conveyor when a heavy metal beam falls from above, striking him directly. This highlights the ever-present danger of falling objects. Hard hats are a last line of defense. The primary focus must be on securing all overhead materials and equipment before allowing personnel into the area.